Okay, so far we have done, we've done UI view transition. We did UI view transition with, right? So UI view dot transition with, right? And keep in mind that there's transition from and to, right? So there's from to. So you want to add a new subview to your view. You could do it with some sort of transition animation as opposed to making it abruptly like we did before the animation. Before the animation, it just happened, right? You want to give the user a sense of something is changing with some animation, right? Animations is big in iOS. That's what sets Apple from its competitors, the sense of like animations and sense of focus there. With user, especially user interaction. Exactly. The what? Well, Android came after, right? Let's not wake the guy up from the grave. Okay, so this is our transition, right? We transition into a cat, we come back, we transition back to our dog. This was our UI view transition. Next, we'll create a new tab, and this tab will go into Property Animator. So let's go create a new tab. We're creating a new tab. I'll just copy my transition animations block, and we're creating a new tab. And our new tab will be called Property Animator View Controller. It's oh, we haven't created it, have we? Okay. So let's go create a storyboard and a view controller. So first, let's go create a storyboard. Sorry, a view controller. New file. Cocoa Touch class. Next, and we said it's Property Animator Controller. I'll go ahead and copy Property Animator here so it's the same storyboard name. So Property Animator Controller, it's a UI view controller. I click Next, I click Create, and I go create a storyboard file as well. So now I'm creating a storyboard file. Next. And my storyboard name will be Property Animator. Property Animator. Cool. Storyboard, you don't belong there. Just put you there. Controllers. So what do we have so far? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 controllers, 4 tabs, 1 tab controller, and we have our storyboards. Those are our storyboards here, not including the launch screen. So we need a 4th storyboard, correct? What? We created it. 1, 2, 3. Am I missing one here?
It's 3 storyboards and 1 animation.
Oh, right. It comes from the view itself. Yeah. We did it entire encode. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so now let's go back to our tab controller. Go back to our tab controller where we have Property, by the way, Property Animator VC. Now we could say the controller is a Property Animator Controller. We copy the Property Animator Controller and we put that into our storyboard name. So our storyboard name is Property Animator. Where am I getting that name from? I'm getting that name from the name that we gave it. We called it Property Animator.storyboard. Perfect. Next, I'll go ahead and change the string for my view controller ID. My view controller ID will put that string in there called property animator controller. Could not load property animator. And now let's go to the name. So the UI tab bar item, we'll call it, I'll just call it animator. Will property animator fit? Let's see. Yeah, property animator should fit. So property animator, an image will be 4.circle, and tag will be 3. And build. And we have one more error, transition. I'm typecasting to the wrong thing, right? So typecast to property animator. Thank you, Cassandra. And this is our code.
Is there a 4-step?
Yeah, 4.circle. I think it goes up to, I really don't. What's probably what does it go up to? Let's see, SF symbols, circle, dot circle. It goes up to 50, just for your reference. But yeah. But after you get to, that takes us into a question, right? After you get to the 5th tab, everybody, after you get to the 5th tab in the tab controller, what happens? Yeah. Like if I have my tab, right now, how many tabs we have here? 3. So if I go 3, 4, 5, after the 5th, what happens? What's that? It crashes? It scrolls. Who's that? Jahid? Right? David said it scrolls. It becomes a table controller, correct? That's where you're going? Right. So after the 5th tab, it will show the 5th tab, but it will have, actually it won't show the 5th tab, it will have a table view of tabs. Everybody? We'll see that maybe in the gesture, because the gesture there's 6 of them. So it won't show us 6, it will show us a table view. On the 5th tab, when you click on it, it shows you the table view of the 2 options. Okay? But we'll get to see that next week when we finish gestures. All right, so now we have our property animator. What's the next step? Mel, what's the next step I'm doing here in my view did load? I'm gonna add that to the view controller array. Very good. So here I'll say property animator. Making sure it's the instance and not the class. Not like a new instantiation of the class itself, but an instance, the instance we created from the storyboard. Okay, let's run it, make sure we have no errors or misspelled identifiers, which we do, because I have a crash here. We don't have the view controller, how can we exist it, right? So it doesn't exist here. Let's go make it. So we'll go over to our property animator storyboard and set up our view controller. We go to our object library, we search for view controller, we drop a view controller in, we go to our class identifier, we go to change the name, and the name we put in here is property animator. We copy the class name and we put it for the storyboard ID as well. So at that point we don't have any errors because the class names matches the storyboard ID. And we'll run our app again. We'll run our app again, and this time we should see 4 tabs. When I click on my 4th tab, it's blank because we haven't added anything to our scene, right? Do we all have our 4 tabs showing? Perfect.
No, mine was telling me that it's not even seeing the constraints animation storyboard.
Constraints. Oh, make sure everything there should be saying property animator in your tab controller here. Tab controller here. There should be no reference to, well, we call the thing constraints, but it should just be storyboard.
Oh, really?
Just change this to storyboard. Not like it matters. instead of just keep that generic here, storyboard. Are you good now?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Great. So what are we doing? We're doing property animator. UI property view animator. Let's go see what the docs have to say about this. UI view property animator.
How do you pull, what's the keys before script?
You want to force quit Xcode itself? Is it not running right now?
No.
Go to a different tab and click on the Apple logo. Like swipe to a different.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so UI view property animator. Click on you. And the Wi-Fi is back slow. Okay. So UI view property animator. It's a class that animates changes to views and allows the dynamic modification of those animations. What does that mean? You could tie the animation with some sort of fraction, some sort of value. You could say animate while I'm dragging, right? We all use the Google's Maps, right? How many people use Apple Maps?
No.
Tim, you heard that? Okay. So when we're in Google Maps, let's go to Google Maps here. Actually, I cannot go to Google Maps now. But anyway, when we go to Google Maps, we see when you pan the direction or whatever it is there. You panning, that's creating some sort of animation. So as you're moving your finger, at the back, the animation is UI view property animator. Because when you get to a certain point in that animation, if you go beyond the Y, whatever the Y limit is, it will go all the way up. Do we see that? Like it snaps to the top, right? That's using UI view property animator. So we'll get introduced to using UI view property animator. It also uses panning as well. So there's pan and there's also UI view property animator. The two of them are working together. As I'm panning, I'm animating the thing, right? If I get to say beyond halfway, it will snap to the top. If I do not get beyond halfway, it will go back to its original position, okay? Let me see if I could get, do I have Google Maps on this? Hello. All right, there we go. All right, we'll pause, we'll come right back.